Greetings everyone and welcome to these online phonetics and phonology tutorials. In this lesson we will begin with a quick review of the previous lectures, then we will talk about some introductory information about chapter 15 which studies the topic of intonation, and then we will wrap up with a brief conclusion. In the previous lectures we dealt with various aspects related to the fields of phonetics and phonology. We mentioned and talked about the various branches of phonetics, and those are articulatory phonetics, which is the straightforward business of describing the phonemes of a given language, and acoustic phonetics, which is that branch of phonetics that deals with the physical properties of a speech sound as transmitted between mouth and ear according to the principles of acoustics. And we talked about auditory phonetics, which is that branch of phonetics that studies the perceptual response to speech sounds as mediated by ear, auditory nerve, and brain. The following figure represents the previously mentioned branches of phonetics, and those are articulatory phonetics, and as we mentioned previously, deals with the study of the articulation of sounds, and acoustic phonetics, which deals with the transmission of the speech sounds through a medium, and auditory phonetics, which deals with the perception of sound. We also dealt with the various branches of phonology, and those are segmental phonology, which analyzes the speech into distinctive units or segmental phonemes. And then we talked about suprasegmental phonology, and then we discussed stress, which is considered one of the aspects of suprasegmental phonology. And in this lesson, we will discuss intonation, which is also another aspect of suprasegmental phonology. With that being said, let's begin today's lesson. Intonation. Intonation is one of the suprasegmental aspects of phonology. Now, what does the term suprasegmental phonology mean? Suprasegmental phonology is a term used to refer to a vocal effect which extends over more than one sound segment in an utterance, such as pitch or stress. Suprasegmental phonology is also called prosodic phonology or prosody. Let's take the word cat for example. This word is a single syllable utterance, and it is incorrect to say that the phonological property of stress is restricted to the k sound only, the a sound, or the t sound. Rather, the stress phonological property belongs to the entire syllable. We said that intonation is one of the suprasegmental aspects of phonology. But what is intonation? In Roach's book, on page 119, he said that no definition is completely satisfactory, but any attempt at a definition must recognize that the pitch of the voice plays the most important part. Or we can simply say that intonation is the use of the pitch of the voice to convey meaning. Now, in talking about the definition of intonation, the term pitch has been mentioned several times, which leads us to the next definition: what is meant by the term pitch? Strictly speaking, the term pitch should be used to refer to an auditory sensation experienced by the hearer. We describe pitch in terms of high or low, light or heavy, left or right. To fully grasp the concept of a voice being high-pitched or low-pitched, listen carefully to the following funny audio clip.
I sound like a chipmunk, but slowly I will transform into the big bad wolf.
When someone is having a difficulty in hearing intonation patterns, he is only having a difficulty in relating what he hears to a given pseudo-spatial scale. At this point, let's talk about analyzing intonation. When analyzing intonation, we are not interested in all aspects of a speaker's pitch. We are only interested in those aspects that carry linguistic information. Now, what do we mean by this? Suppose, for example, that a guy is playing jump rope and speaking at the same time. His voice will definitely have sudden non-linguistic variations and fluctuations. Those fluctuations have no linguistic significance. The question is why it does not have linguistic significance. Well, simply speaking, in our case of the rope jump guy, when he is jumping up and down, he will eventually have sudden rises and falls in the pitch of the voice as a result of the irregular movement. This is something which is outside the speaker's control and therefore cannot be linguistically significant. So it means that we are not interested in those aspects that are not under the speaker's control. On the other hand, we are only interested in those aspects that are under the speaker's control. For example, you can choose to speak with a high pitch at a specific moment, and then you can choose talking in a low pitch in another instance. Pitch differences must be perceptible in order to be of linguistic importance. So that's the keyword, that the pitch differences must be perceptible. Now, what does that mean? It means that it is possible to detect differences in the frequency of the vibration of a speaker's voice by means of laboratory instruments, but these differences may not be great enough to be heard by a listener as differences in pitch. 5.1 Form and function in intonation. In this section, we will try to answer two essential questions in the study of intonation. The first question is that what can we observe when we study pitch variations? Or simply put, what is the form of intonation? The second question, what is the linguistic importance of the phenomena we observe? Or simply speaking, what is the function of intonation? We will begin by looking at intonation in the shortest piece of a speech we can find, the single syllable. At this point, a new term will be introduced, and this term is utterance. Now, what is meant by the term utterance? An utterance is the term that refers to any continuous piece of a speech beginning and ending with a clear pause. All of the following are examples of an utterance. The word yes here is considered an utterance since it started with a clear pause and ended with a clear pause. Similarly speaking, this sentence, "he is actually a very busy man," can also be considered an utterance because it started with a clear pause and ended with a pause. After introducing the term utterance, let's answer one question at a time, and we begin with the question, what is the form of intonation? When producing an utterance, the speaker has a choice of saying it with the pitch remaining at a constant level, that's to say by using a level tone. Listen to the following audio clip.
Level. Yes. No. Well. For.
Or with the pitch changing from one level to another, that's to say by using a moving tone. Now, moving tones are of different types. For instance, English speakers use a falling tone to say something in a definite and final manner. Or simply speaking, they use the falling tone to express finality. For example, statements. Listen to the following audio clip.
For. Yes. No. Well. For.
Another type of moving tones is that when people want to say something in a questioning manner, they may say it with a rising tone. Listen to the following audio clip.
Rise. Yes. No. Well. For.
So in the case of a level tone, the pitch of the voice remains constant and does not change. But in relation to moving tones, let's talk about the fall tone first. In the case of the falling tone, the pitch of the voice descends from a higher to a lower pitch. And in the case of a rise tone, the pitch of the voice ascends from a lower to a higher pitch. That's all for this lesson. To sum up, in this lesson, we talked about suprasegmental phonology, and we defined it as the analysis of the speech into distinctive units or segmental phonemes. And then we talked about the nature of intonation, and we defined what is meant by the term intonation, which is, loosely speaking, the use of the pitch of the voice to convey meaning. And then we talked about the form of intonation, and we said that when a speaker wants to produce a specific utterance, he has two choices: either to choose a level tone or to choose one of a number of moving tones. And we talked about the fall tone and the rise tone as examples of the moving tones.